do this thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Oh, you need to do off camera. Do I need to turn our preamble?
No, I was actually going to say, like, between the end of the session and going to the bathroom and coming back, I realized I actually have a lot of questions. Like,
Sure.
how are we creating characters? Like, are we doing standard array? Are we
Oh,
doing roles? Or like a lot of questions about
yeah.
the next
I'll
thing.
do that in the. We can talk about that in the Discord chat, but
Okay,
those are
okay,
pertinent information. Yes. Yeah, because we're not doing a session 0 for that. Hello
right.
and welcome to Frostside Chat, our weekly live stream post-session discussion. We talk about what just happened during D&D. This is the chat for session 39. So if you haven't watched that session yet, please go do that now because there will be spoilers. Already spoilers on the screen. I'm your DM, Eric, and joining me, we have Robin's player, Chris.
Hello.
And Edmund's player, Raymond.
Hello.
Also Thimbleweed's player this session. Yeah, this was the big Shardlin dragon fight.
Yeah, the big boss fight.
Yeah, which I realized in designing my plan going into this, which we can talk about a lot of this chapter now because we're done with it, was okay. There's the final showdowns in Bryn Shander. Like it just makes sense. Dragon's gonna be there. The player's gonna be there. It's the most town they care about, and everything else. And then when I was reading about, when I started thinking, okay, they want to get a different speaker because they don't want to kill. That would make it pretty dramatic. Because Shane's been great for him, so it would be more of a dramatic moment, I guess, if they had to use her. And I appreciate the fact you guys were like trying to use her as like a backup thing.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking, like, boy, once I tell them, like, oh, it's bearing down on Targos now, and as a player, I would have been like, well, fuck, let's just go to Targos
Yeah.
and stop it there, and then we can protect all these people in Bryn Shander. And you guys did pick up on that pretty quickly.
Well, my initial reaction, even before that, was like, can we get ahead of the city? Can we like meet it in like the fields outside of Bryn Shander? You know, we don't need to be in the middle of the city to do this.
That's very true. Also, yeah.
So yeah, I definitely was of the mind like, no, we don't just wait for it to come to us.
Right? Yeah. So my
just
initial thought was you guys would wait. You'd do all these things. Like, okay, you could set up whatever tactics you wanted to and guards and all these things. But I thought, well, it just makes sense, yeah, for saving people's lives and being efficient that you would just try to hit it up as soon as you can. So that's when I included, okay, now I need to include all this bits about you guys are actually going to Targos to get this done. Which the fun thing is, you know, I'm using this battle map no matter where you fight the damn thing. I didn't,
sure.
I'll tell you, I did not have one planned if you fought it in the field. So I was like, all right, we're going to do it in a city because that's a cool dramatic thing. But it's going to be either hopefully in Bryn Shander or Targos. And then the fun thing was the dramatic tension is really nice in Targos because the timing worked out well where you guys hit the city at the same time the dragon does. And it's really fun. Like it's bearing down and you're like, okay, we got to get the speaker. We got to get this going. And it's hard for me to, you know, obviously I plan a lot of the cutscenes out, but then I want you players to be able to interact with stuff. So like initially, I'm going to get ahead a little bit, but I had the speaker just, you know, you can spot him, but then he's running with the crowd and you have to like catch him and it's more drama about, oh, there's people coming in, I gotta trample you. But then Heather was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go up. Like she rolled and I literally rolled, you had to roll a 20 or higher to like pinpoint exactly where he is. And she immediately found him and was like, I'm saddled up right next to him on the ground. I was like, fuck it, let's just do it that way then. We can have you find him early and then kind of grab him.
I did think it was interesting that like of all of our talk about how we're gonna handle the situation, Freddie was just like, I'm just gonna talk him into it.
Mm-hmm. She seems to have a knack for like this guy especially, just like I'm not giving you any of your shit. But then I was impressed that she didn't just intimidate him and bully him. She actually like silver tongued his ass and was like,
his,
and actually like stroked the ego. And I was like, all right. And there was a time where I thought like I could make a roll persuasion, but as a barbarian, her persuasion's bad, and she's just doing a good job of role playing. So I'm just gonna roll with it. And obviously I wanted you guys to eventually succeed at this anyway, and didn't have any really consequences set up if you didn't. So the plan was always obviously to have this cutscene happen where the Duergar dismantle their siege weapons, and there's a big fight that breaks out there, and then the dragon comes barreling in. But the timing worked where you guys were most likely going to be able to have the speaker, and he wasn't going to be that hard to convince. And I did love the fact that you asked the speaker in Bryn Shander first, like, hey, how can we appeal to him, which was smart. Because you might not have known, you know, you would have tried to like, oh, you can be a hero and all that. And he's not gonna really go shit about that. But and then I was like, yeah, she would dish on him absolutely. And she was like, you need to appeal to his ego. He's a selfish asshole. Like, he's, you know. And what I figure is you guys would either.
Which is exactly what Frey did.
Pretty much,
promised him Bryn Shander if he.
Yeah, like you would. Yeah, you would get all this stuff. The other angle I thought you guys might go was like, this is gonna grant you personally like great power, the power to like destroy the dragon, and all that. But either one would have worked basically. Yeah, I thought about it, but
worked.
I wasn't gonna have a roll.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In terms of going to Targos worked out well. A little bit of drama there with the refugees and the gate being closed, and you guys got past that just fine. I didn't have any notes about how to do that, but it was like they'll figure something out. They're level 6.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, for sure.
That is true, Random. That is something that's very rarely used, but you can actually use whatever skill with whatever attribute you want. That's in the base rules.
Yeah, I wonder. It's because
it's a little fiddly.
Because Roll20.
Well, that's how character sheets are too.
Yeah, they build it as a charisma skill.
Yeah.
But if you're literally like breaking his arm, like as an intimidation tactic,
right? It would be intimidation strength. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. It's to where if you were doing something on the regular, it might be worth adding it in as a custom thing that you can click on versus trying to fiddly through working through. But yes, that does exist. You're right. Although in this case, she was actually using her voice, not her.
She was actually using her charisma.
Yeah, actually using her charisma, but saying all the right things. So yeah, I had this big cutscene planned out with the. I guess I'll ask you guys what you think about what it was going to do. Did you have any inclination about any ideas about what the artifact was going to do or what effect it was going to have?
I think I wasn't sure what it was going to do, but one of the possibilities that was in my head was summon something. So that it was one of the possibilities that was running through my mind of like, or maybe it's summon some thing that would fight the dragon. What I didn't
beam.
A beam, yeah,
just a laser beam, just shoot him.
What I didn't realize that it wasn't that whatever it did was not actually gonna. Well, I guess it did help us, but it wasn't gonna be an active participant in the fight. Then, it was basically just gonna bring him to the ground, and then we were gonna be left to figure it out from there.
That was definitely my plan. Is like what this is going to do specifically is ground the dragon, because otherwise this thing is so hard to fight. It has a fly speed of 90 feet. So it literally just flies around and eventually gets its laser blast recharged and does it again and then flies around. Like there's just no conventional way for a party to fight it.
Okay. Here's where now that we're done with this chapter, you can just reveal all the secrets of the book. Because I've not read the book. What does the book say about this dragon?
Reveal all the secrets.
Yeah. How are you supposed to bring the dragon down according to the book?
Well, when it reaches Bryn Shander, it does its strafe thing. I will literally read you out. Oops, that's the wrong thing. It's under Dragon Scourge. Let's see. So when it reaches Bryn... So most of the towns, it literally does its strafing the whole time. So under Bryn Shander, it says, the dragon strafes the town for 6 hours, remaining airborne the whole time and eliminating anyone who tries to get away. It then lands inside the walls and spends another 6 hours going from one smoldering ruin to the next, hunting down survivors. So it's there for 12 hours total. Spends 6, which obviously I programmed it to make it not as, hunting out people and just more about the buildings. Yeah. So it spends 6 hours doing its strafe thing, but then it actually actively lands, because it was programmed specifically in Bryn Shander, Zardarok correctly planned that everybody would flee to Bryn Shander. So it was doing its building thing in all the other towns, and then when it got to Bryn Shander, it did a super thorough job of like killing every single person in Bryn Shander. So it actually in most of the other towns it does not land ever. It just does its strafing thing. But in Bryn Shander it specifically lands on its own and does devastating amounts of damage. So technically that's your last resort, I guess, is just it eventually lands in Bryn Shander and you can fight it there. Now nothing would stop it from just reflying and re-engaging people, I guess, but
without us knowing that would have been a very frustrating end.
Yeah.
Like we don't know what to do for 6 hours while it's just destroying the city. It's like, we can't bring it down.
There's really not... It's a so obviously my thing was like, well, let's give them a magic artifact powered by the Frostmaiden, which is interesting because you're not quite sure, is the Frostmaiden evil? Is like, what's going on here? So that was kind of interesting.
Especially if she's responsible for the
you're not quite
here. It's
correct.
Like,
yeah. So that was the important thing. There was it was essentially what Raymond said. It's like a laser blasted down the dragon. Basically, it was just fancier with a summoned creature that could do all these things, have this cool like battle in midair, and then my intention was never to have that thing stick around. But it importantly was grounding the dragon to where it could no longer fly, which was a huge boost to you guys because this thing's mobility was no longer a factor. Instead, it just had its impressive, cool stat block.
Yeah.
Which I had a little scene to tease some things going on, maybe in the future, or events and things when you first see the downed ice owl.
Oh, seeing the Frost Lady, or
yeah,
like, I don't know if it's actually the god herself, but yeah, the Ice Lady.
Yep.
I don't know what she meant by prove yourself like him, but that was interesting.
And then we got the battle, so I can reveal a lot about the dragon. You guys had only ever seen it fly and use its breath weapon.
Yeah.
It has. This is a tricky one because it has multi-attack, and on its turn it uses Malevolent Presence, which I guess I'll go ahead and I wanted to hide this, but here's what it does. Creature with an intelligence of 4 or more that's within 30 feet of the dragon must succeed on a DC 16 Wiz save or be charmed by it for 1 minute. A creature can repeat the effect at the end of each turn, and then when it does, it is immune when it makes that save. Now, you didn't see it, but every time I used one of these charmed creatures, I was rolling that check in secret, and they were failing it each time. So you would have seen they actually had the possibility of getting themselves out of it, but every time they did, they failed, and they all have a +0 on DC 16. It's pretty challenging.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, charm doesn't make him attack though, but I didn't read the end.
The body. You always gotta read the end of it. A creature charmed in this way fixates another creature object the dragon mentally chooses and must on each of its turns move as close as it can to that target. Use its action to make a melee attack against it. So, yeah. What I set up is like, well, it's a cool boss, but it needs minions. So originally I was like, all right, well, I guess some Dwarga around it makes sense. But then I was like, oh, the Dwarga weren't really prepared for the dragon to crash down here. And it does say the Dwarga are like, eliminating people throughout the town. But I was just kind of done with the Dwarga at this point. It's like, we fought them so much. Yeah. We've done with them before. I even had a cutscene of them in the background fighting. I just don't want to do Dwarga again. It just seems too obvious. So instead I was like, all right, well, what if other guards make it to the dragon before the players do, but then they are all affected one by one by its malevolent presence, and they end up slaughtering their own, and now all of a sudden I've got these charmed guards as its minions, with the risk that, yes, they can cure themselves if they can. But the biggest advantage it gave me was it gave you guys additional targets to hit, too, and actions that ate up your actions to deal with them. Which was pretty satisfying. You had, people using, especially with you, Chris, you had Valin.
It was handy for me because there was nothing I could have done against the dragon.
Yes.
Construct dragon.
Yep. It's like, immune to a lot of
abilities. Yeah.
It also,
so having things to do that weren't like attack the dragon was helpful.
It also has magic resistance, immutable forms. You would not have been able to use it, reduce on it, and I gave it legendary resistance. So it was like all kinds of shit you couldn't do to it.
It didn't have it already? I thought it was like a default of dragons.
It didn't have legendary resistance or legendary actions. So I gave it both of those things because I am of the mind that every big boss fight needs legendary actions, because that is how you make these bosses scary. They can do other things on everybody else's turn. So it does not, which is crazy because it's basically modeled after an adult dragon. I think it's a slightly weaker adult dragon.
Really?
Only slightly. It's pretty close. See, it's a CR11. Yeah. So I made it stronger by giving it legendary actions and legendary resistance, although the resistance only came up once, I think.
Yeah.
But for its actions, I gave it the ability to just make a tail attack for 1, and then for 2, so it has 3 actions every round. And the other thing was for 2 actions, it could use its that Shardle and Shard attack, because I wanted to utilize, and we talked about this in crafting, but I wanted to have some ability to use the Shardle and Madness effect on people. So in this case, it's like, all right, he's like flinging out these shards and stabbing people with them, which ended up being pretty useful. I was bummed because Celeste is so good about hitting and running, so I was like, the best I can, and the rest of you hang back, so like the best I can do is basically just hit Frey and I guess the Goliath. Yep. So the Kona, you guys did a good job of like splitting up and hiding and doing all that, so I couldn't actually get too many people with it. Now, the tricky thing is, so it's got an impressive multi-attack. I don't know if you saw that, but it uses its Malevolent Presence on somebody. Then it uses 4 attacks.
Wow.
2 with its claws, 1 with its tail, and if it isn't flanking, it can also make a wing attack. So on its turn, it's doing a lot of things, and I gave it legendary actions to do things in between. But, as we saw, all of its attacks are just regular slashing or bludgeoning. So the barbarian can, I mean, it's doing a lot of damage. But the barbarian can tank it pretty effectively. Now she was full health and had to drink both melee people had to chug potions. Unfortunately, was not able to mind control, which would have been huge. Not only did that take her out, but it makes her attack other people, and I did try. I think I only had one chance at that, though. I think I only had 2 rounds with the dragon, right?
I think so.
Because I think the first time I did all its big multi-attack. Now, unfortunately, you have to choose to either do its cool multi-attack, where it does Malevolent Presence and 4 attacks, or its breath weapon.
Oh.
And if you notice, it did not have its breath weapon available at the beginning. I made it roll because I figured it was part of that big battle, and then it got crashed down. So it's like, all right, when it starts the battle, it has to actually recharge that breath weapon. And I got it. I didn't get it the first round, and I got it the second round, which is why I was initially going to be like, oh, it's going to choose it. Mind control that. But I was like, oh, wait, no, fuck it. It's using its breath weapon because it's got it, and I needed to use it. And that's when I got to unleash the breath weapon, which, numbers-wise, I mean, I did catch a lot of you in it, which was cool, but his multi-attack is so strong. It's like, this is weird to have to choose between these two things.
Honestly, it came down to you choosing to spread the damage out to multiple characters, because the multi-attack thing would have only been the melee people around him.
That's true, and Frey does resist all that damage, so it actually probably doesn't do as much versus doing that blast, and she doesn't resist the radiant, so actually the breath is probably a lot more effective. Yeah, she probably wouldn't have been able to take another one of those. I forgot how much damage that did, but I don't think I did.
She made the same, I think.
Yeah, I only did, out of 7d8, it was a 26 damage. That's a pretty low roll.
Okay. I mean, average is 28, so...
Yeah, so I rolled a bit below average. So, that, it still took a while, because it's a big boss fight, but, I think it literally...
I was surprised that, even though it did have a very high AC, well, I guess it was 18, right?
17.
Oh, was 7? I was wrong. Okay.
It was not. Do you think it would be a little higher? Yeah.
I just feel like every time I've looked up creatures, it's rarely an odd number. Is my experience.
That's funny.
It's just often 16 or 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd think it would be. I literally think it's modeled after most adult dragons, which are about somewhere in the high teens.
Okay.
I jacked up its hit points, which I'm glad I did. It has an average hit point of 147. I gave it 170. What I told myself is I'm going to keep rolling its hit points until I get above 170. Yeah. Because I want it to be above average for a boss. Pretty good above average. And I took like 10 tries and I finally got 172. I was like, all right, fine. Yeah. And you guys I didn't fudge any hit point numbers, which I thought that was always in my back pocket as a DM, because I was like, you guys don't know the hit points. I did not fudge hit points at all. Because the fight was kind of running late, so I was like, all right, well, I'd love to get another round with him, but you guys have done 170 points of damage to him. Yeah. And that includes Thimbleweed and the Goliath and the Uncharmed Veteran doing unmagical damage, which was half damage. It was resistant to that.
Yeah.
But the rest of you all had magical weapons, and Frey especially was just fucking... I don't think Frey or Celeste ever missed an attack. Like, they just...
I think so.
They were
that's
nailing.
What I was going to say was surprising. When I was talking about the AC earlier, that's what I meant, was that despite its high AC, it was surprising to me that I don't think there was a whole lot of missing going on.
That's okay. That's a good point, Nick. So I thought, I forgot you had calm emotions. I looked at your character sheet and I thought, oh, this would be a cool chance for Chris to use counter charm.
I was looking at both of them.
Okay.
I didn't know what the ability was. I didn't know if the humanoids
I thought I tried to
saves. I mean, you did make it clear that it was a charm effect.
Charm effect, yeah.
But I wasn't positive that it was a permanent thing.
Okay.
Like these dudes were like permanently
I think if you would have asked me, I would, because I wanted to see you do it. I think I would have said like, yeah, you think they're trying to resist or something. I was trying to keep it hidden.
I liked the spell anyway.
No, the calm emotions was good. I forgot you had that one.
It was an opportunity for me to use that spell.
Because counter charm I believe only gives advantage to those saves, which would have been a far cry because they're a +0.
Yeah, who knows if they actually would have made it.
Correct.
I would have had to wait the entire round for them to go again.
Right.
And then
versus your spell was just instantly shut it down. It was interesting, though, that I was like, wait a minute, that's concentration. You were concentrating on the other thing.
Somebody in the chat called that out, and I didn't realize it until much later. But scrolls still do require concentration if it's a concentration spell.
Yeah.
I guess I don't use scrolls that much.
Yeah, I don't think we ever do. But, considering how long it took us to look up the rules and everything, it doesn't really come up that often.
And I should have realized that it was 10:15 and we were not going to go much longer. That was a waste of a scroll.
Oh, because she didn't get a turn again.
Got to go again.
That's true. I need to shrink her back down. Yeah. Well, that's hard to tell for you guys. You don't see the hit points, so
I mean, I should look.
Oh, the time. Yeah, you know that I'm not going to run too long.
Like, hey, a buff on a character at 10:15
That's true.
is probably going to be,
That's very true. Yeah. Well, and the other thing that helped Frey not miss is she did drink that fucking giant strength potion too that she had.
Yeah, that's true.
Gave her whatever increased stuff.
Which you should probably go into her character sheet and make sure she changed back to.
I don't remember what her old one was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'd have to look at.
Or just remind her next time. But yeah,
next time's gonna be a while. Okay, she did change it to. I think it. You know what? I've got it pulled up. I've got backups of the character sheet, so I'll look at it. I should make that change though, because it's gonna be a couple of weeks before we come back.
All right, yeah.
I think Celeste missed one. Yeah, and it was pretty rare. Like they were hitting it left and right because you'd think it would have. It's got all this armor impressive. I think that'd be its main advantage is this big armor. I'm
actually surprised. 17 is a surprise to me. I thought it would be like a 20.
Yeah,
like,
it should have been.
Yeah.
And Edmund and Celeste both exposed its main weakness. It is a dex save of +0. So
it does look like that on the picture.
Right. It doesn't have much. It can't dodge those kind of things. So like him doing the lightning blast was great, and her doing the burning hands, like all that shit affected. It did a lot of damage. You guys were. I mean, hell. Like I said, 2 rounds, you did 170 some damage. Yeah. I went into it thinking like, yeah, it could be a hard fight, but you guys are fully rested. Yeah. Have all these fresh potions. Like this is not the middle of a dungeon. Like you guys are in the best possible situation to fight this monster. Even though I gave it extra legendary, which thank God I did, because I think it would have been really disappointing.
I'll say it actually probably would have been a far more boring fight had you not given it legendary actions.
Yeah, because you guys were able to eliminate in the first round pretty much all of the minions, and then that whole second round is just you guys beating up on this dragon until it could finally go. But legendary actions does help because it breaks it up. I'm swinging the tail out, which hit every time, and that storm of Chardalyn stuff hit.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it went pretty. I totally fucked up with. I even had zombie tokens on the map ready to go for Valen, and I totally just didn't realize. I mean, I got so much shit I'm tracking, but I forgot that one.
What that tells me is I probably could have not said it to you, and I probably gotten away with
probably could have. Just to have some zombies.
I read the sheet, and I was like, it says 1 minute to cast the spell.
We missed that literally twice in our Tomb of the Annihilation campaign with Theron using Conjure Elemental, I think in the middle of a combat scene or something, and we're like, oh wait, that takes a fucking like hour or a minute, whatever to cast.
Yeah.
These are not for combat.
Mm-hmm. Or like preparation, which I realized ahead of time.
And they last for like 24 hours, so I mean, you could.
Yeah.
Assuming you're not in a town or something that's going to be.
Yes,
faux pas, then you could just raise people and have them walking around.
Yeah. The idea is to have it with you at the beginning and just have it come alongside with you. Yeah.
But yeah, that was chapter 4, which I hacked the hell out of. It's only a couple pages in the book, and it basically just explains, hey, the dragon goes in this path, it destroys this much at each town, it takes this much time, and after all that's done, if the players don't kill it, it goes back to Sunblight, and that's the thing is, if you don't do anything, it just returns to Sunblight and shuts down, and if you've already cleared out Sunblight, then you've technically solved the dragon. It's just sitting there shut down in Sunblight, which obviously is extremely anticlimactic.
Yeah, dissatisfying.
And very dissatisfying, yeah, and then 10 Towns is just destroyed, which... The fun thing is here, a good chunk of 10 Towns is destroyed, but you guys still managed to persevere and save a lot of lives because you defeated it in Targos.
Not to jump ahead and say things about the future, but in essence, outside of what you did with it, the function of the dragon in the book is just that the 10 Towns gets destroyed. Like that's just a little chunk of the story that just says, okay, here's the reason why 10 Towns is destroyed.
Yeah,
moving on,
because it doesn't seem like you have much chance. I'll even say this, because I don't think I've been able to mention this before. The way it's written in the book is when you get to Sunblight, you get to the entrance of Sunblight, you see the dragon leave.
Really?
And I fucking hate that, because you've made it all the way to this dungeon, you're ready to go in this dungeon and do things, and then you see this dragon just fly off to 10 Towns, and it literally says in the book, like, well, now the players have to choose. Do they go ahead and go into the dungeon, or do they turn around and rush off to 10 Towns to try to face the dragon and chase after it? Which is horrible, because then eventually you're just going to have to come back to Sunblight and do that dungeon.
Yeah,
or you do the dungeon, in which case 10 Towns is completely fucked, because it's just going to be destroyed by the time you get out of the dungeon. I was like, I fucking hate so much of this.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I changed it to where the dragon is in Sunblight, and it works out where it's there during the climactic, like, I guess one of the climactic fights for you all, and it's released at that point. Actually, it wasn't even really, because you guys had shut it. You guys closed the doors to where you were able to get a long rest, and then it is released. It breaks its way out.
Yeah.
So you guys had a chance, but I was like, I can't even believe this is set up like this.
Ah.
So I had to modify that first, and then create all these situations where I had to figure out where which this was a hard one, because I was like, all right, where are they going to go? What things do I need to set up? This was the most hacky I've had to do in terms of custom maps.
Yeah.
And like, this is by far, this chapter has been the most straight up work throughout everything. I mean, I still have, every single thing, obviously I've changed to suit my campaign needs, but this whole Destruction's Light, which I think was 7 part in the end, I've had to do the most work on.
Interesting.
Which I think I was satisfied by the end of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sounds way more interesting than what ended up being in the book.
Yeah. And I'll be adding some more custom content, but we'll be using a lot more book stuff from here also. So it's weird, as we completed chapter 4, but chapter 2 is the one with all the kind of open world subquests, so I'm still using some of that one.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's hard to say how far you guys are in the campaign. But I do want to keep up the pacing with leveling up too. We did I kind of stretched out a little bit with the tier 1 stuff, because there was a lot that's balanced for that, but now I actually think we can.
I don't know what the actual numbers are, but 6 to 7 feels pretty short.
That's what I'm saying. The pacing is going to feel a little bit quicker than what we just were at, because I kind of stretched out that. Which, I mean, if I look back like a Storm Kings, you leveled us up pretty quickly.
I did, but that's just yeah.
And then for Tomb, I did the opposite. I stretched it real far, and it was, I think, too long for all those lower levels, because that's what the jungle is balanced for. And this time, I tried to compromise and say, okay, we're going to stretch out the lower levels a little bit, because that's still what a lot of those 10-town quests are for, and I want to run them. But now we're going to kind of accelerate it, because this campaign, and I think I've said this before, this campaign normally ends at 11, and I want to stretch it out into like tier 3 if we can by the end. Yeah. So I've got more content planned to add to that, but also I'm just going to kind of step up the leveling a little bit. So you're probably going to feel like, oh, these, because usually when you play a video game, the longer levels take longer. That's probably not going to be the case here. It's probably going to be as long, if not shorter, than those early levels.
Yeah.
Just kind of depending on what we did. But my plan was always, you guys definitely level up after taking out the dragon, because that's just an awesome big achievement.
That is very much one of those like achievement reached moments, right? Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, but it did feel a little short.
The only funny consequence of that is that Celeste spent one
session
encounter at level 6.
One session at level 6, yeah. And she was like, I don't remember. I was like, I understand. Like, you're excused this time, because you literally were a plant zombie for the last 5 sessions.
That's funny. Yeah.
And now you'll be level 7.
And now you're level 7.
Yeah, so obviously I'll be doing another.
I don't know. I'm probably not. I mean, I don't know what your advice is to all of us, but I'm probably not even going to look at level 7 until when you tell us we're coming back.
Yeah, I need to remember whenever we finish the other one, like, give everybody like a couple days and be like, hey, remember, it'll be an important recap, because we've never really done this before, where we take, obviously we've had to take breaks. In fact, the longest one I think was just this last holiday. We had to take 2 weeks off, which was pretty long, but we've never done a break where we literally do another campaign and have to think about that mental load and then go back to this one. So
yeah, it'll
be a bit of a challenge. Obviously, everybody will long rest. You could even say like, hey, a couple days have passed. There's some downtime. Sure, you guys have had to help rebuild and
that's true, 'cause we're not in a huge hurry anymore.
No,
we could just relax.
Yes, you guys have been in crisis, like rushing around mode for a while, and I thought this is a great chance for actually to slow down and get some. You're not going to be like necessarily relaxed, like you said, but you still got the night and everything going on, and there's a big humanitarian crisis. But I did think like this was going to be a great stopping point for having that act break. And you guys level up. We'll probably have some days pass, but we can talk about what you guys did during the downtime. But then, Valen will be chomping at the bit to go forward, and you got all these other different. You got that Lost Spire thing to go do, the Dark Duchess pirate ship thing to go do. Like you guys actually have plenty of things on your docket. And I don't know if you noticed, but I kind of teased at the end that there's another quest chain with the Goliath. He's like, hey, you want to go to my people? That's not you technically don't have a full quest for that yet, but I'm going to include that as like a lead of like, hey, he mentioned the fact that this NPC has offered you his hey, you want to go check out the Goliaths? We could have good stuff for you guys.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we get the treasure with Skullix.
Yes.
Yep. We talked about that one. That was the pirate ship one, the Dark Duchess. The one you got, Edmund, which we don't talk about next. I guess next time we get together, if you tell the rest of the party about that, but your decoded message about the Lost Spire, where the Dazan wizard presumably came from, as well as the actual main quest hook you're on, which is keep following the clues of the Valish Gaunt with the dig site in the Gorman Valley, which all of that is custom shit that I will need to spend some time prepping on, which is why I'm thankful that we've got some weeks that I can get ahead.
As Random says in the chat, you are going to have to give a pretty epic recap.
I know. Yeah, it's gonna be like it's gonna be one of those season recaps, really, where it's like you start like season 4 of Stranger Things. It's like, hey, here's what happened in the last
the
years.
Point where it comes up with a do you want to skip this? Yeah,
it's gonna have to be pretty epic.
Yeah,
and then we'll spend some of that session leveling up too. So
that's true.
The bad thing is, at some point I'm gonna need to get back together with you guys and be like, okay, what do you actually want to do next? Because I've got so many different things that I need to prep and be prepared for. It would help to be like, all right, remind you, here's the quests, here's what they are. What do you guys want to do next? Hopefully, I'll think about that in the Discord chat and do it weeks from now, and we'll work that out.
Gut reaction would be to do the Spellix thing. Just because that's been like it's just something hanging.
Want to get rid of this guy and do that?
It feels like one of those sub quests that have been hanging on for too long. Yeah. You know, like we really need to clear this out.
I think you've had it the longest.
We are right now. Yeah.
You look and see which ones you've had the longest, and that moves to the top. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. Anything else about this was a long Frostside, but we completed a big chapter, so these tend to be big ones. Anything else about chapter 4 of Rime of the Frostmaiden? Destruction's light.
Satisfying climax to all this destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, liked it.
All right. Looking forward to next week's adventures. Also, it'll be the same time.
I have a lot to say about next week.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, we will be talking about that. So the plan right now is I was gonna still do my normal streaming, but I could talk to Heather and maybe she could do some of the Monday night crafting streams if she's up to it, and maybe one or two of them. Just telling everybody watching this.
I was gonna suggest. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I was gonna suggest, like, if not a session 0, like a session 0.5, where at least we can just talk for a bit, like in person.
Okay.
I mean, we could do this over Discord, but I feel like it'd be way easier to just talk about it for a bit. Like Heather and me and you and whoever else wants to join. And,
okay.
Anybody who wants to, because I
could set up like a preliminary, like, just get together and chat about it. Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah.
You need more details.
Session 0s aren't required, but they're really, really fucking helpful.
They are very helpful. That's true. We do all usually have them. All right, that will do it for character ideas. Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to do anything to the chat about it, but that would be fun. Maybe I'll record that get together we do or something. That could be fun. We talk about stuff. So we'll get that planned out. It's still a little disorganized right now at the moment, but we need to get that planned because we plan on doing the first session next Friday. Yep. All right, that'll do it for this week's Frostside chat. Thank you to Chris and Raymond. Thank you to all the wonderful fans for watching, and we will see you next week with Forge of Fury.
Forge of Fury, interesting.
Yeah.
See you then.